Hi guys! Welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new legal advice content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first one is titled, Grandmother gave my brother and me an equal share portfolio each in the late 90s when we were kids. Brother sold his when they were worth a car. I left mine in and now they're a substantial amount. Brother and his girlfriend want my half now. California. When my brother was 16 and I was 4, my grandmother set aside a share portfolio for us. As soon as we were old enough, it was transferred into our own accounts, and it was only 4 years later that my brother dipped heavily into his and bought a new Honda. I knew about mine for much longer than he did before it became mine, and watched it grow since I understood what it was. By the time I was given full control, it was already worth a ridiculous amount because a big portion of it was invested in Apple, and I'm torn on using the funds locked up as they are, because Dad drilled it into me to leave it to grow until I'm 40-something. I don't talk much with my brother. He's done some stupid things to the family over the years and I didn't really grow up with him, so all I usually hear about his life comes through Dad. His new girlfriend works in law though, and I've received a formal letter from them both that the investments my grandmother made were designed to be for both of us to use, not just for me alone, and his was only around $15,000. The number is right, but mine was only worth that at the time he spent it too. They want half of the value of mine now, and his girlfriend has informed me if I don't give them access then the legal fees and fines would eat up my half and I'd be left with nothing. The dividends alone support a huge part of my life and they've saved me a few times. If half of that disappeared, it'd set me back years. I know it sounds selfish, but I'm really used to having the extra income back me up when I've wanted to move. I've lived in 4 states by my own choice and I want to move and take in more before I settle down, if I ever do. How likely is it they'll win and leave me with nothing? As far as I know, there was no paperwork, or just my grandmother's word. She set up my brother's accounts when he turned 19, but she gave them to Dad at the same time as my brother got his, and Dad transferred the whole lot to me 6 years ago. For my share, I have all the logins, the trading accounts and bank accounts are in my name, and the shares are all solely in my name too. Should I find my own lawyer, and if I need one, what kind do I need? I have an accountant I've used for years, but this doesn't seem like an accounts problem but a law one. Good news update. Mostly good news. I worked with my dad and got my own lawyer. I got the timeline of my shares wrong, but it comes out the same. What my brother and I inherited from my grandmother was originally part of my grandfather's portfolio. He was the money-savvy one. My grandmother looked after those after he died, and she personally set up my brother's accounts and gave him control of his part. She didn't do the same with mine before she died. I thought she had already set the accounts up for me and given control to Dad before passing. Instead, the shares were in her will, and she left everything she owned to my dad with instruction that what was $15,000 worth when my brother got his equivalent part would go to me when I was old enough to know how to take care of them. There was no trust, she just trusted my dad. My dad did the right thing and set up accounts for me and gave me control 6 years ago. My dad put some of his own shares in too as an extra leg up. Dad admitted to me he'd chewed out my brother last year when he came to him asking for money, and Dad had supported him several times over the years and got to the point he'd had enough. My brother found out I still had my investments because Dad had used me as an example of how brothers should have been using money. That's how my brother found out I still had shares and they'd grown. According to all that info, my lawyer tells me I'm in the clear, but it's not going to get to the point of finding that out in court as my brother's GF was only a legal secretary. I say was because the firm she worked for apologized and informed my lawyer she was terminated immediately. The letter I received from them had been edited to put her name in a position higher up than it should have been, and some of the contact information had been changed. A week after she was fired, my brother visited me begging for money. His girlfriend is in serious debt and she took a chance on scamming cash from me and lost. I felt awful rejecting my own brother over and over, and if he hadn't involved his girlfriend needing an amount well into 5 figures, I might have given him some. The next morning I found all my tires had been slashed. Screw him, I don't feel bad anymore. The rest of the comments in the previous thread made me realize I don't know nearly enough about what I'm doing with the shares and dividends and money in general. A lot of the decisions I've made have been with Dad's help, and his advice has paid off well so far, but not because I knew it would, but because I had no idea what I was doing and left it up to him. I've booked into work with a financial advisor to make the most of what I have. Thanks for all your comments. The next one is titled, Sold Townhouse, a year later AC goes out. New owner wants us to pay. North Carolina. We sold a townhouse September 2016. The townhouse is a 2-unit system. We had just replaced one unit but disclosed the state and age of the aging unit. We even paid to have it serviced before putting it on the market. Today, November 21, 2018, we receive a letter stating that the new owners had to replace the older AC unit. They requested that we pay half of the amount. They even state that they have a lawyer. There is an enclosed statement from the company that put in the AC unit stating that the compression coil was rusted and that it should have been caught beforehand and that it had no freon. Do they even have a case? Do we get a lawyer? I genuinely don't know where to begin. Edit. Paid to paid. Update. I know only a handful of people will read this, but I figured why not do an update. We were sued via small claims court for half of the amount of the AC unit. The case predictably was dismissed as we didn't misrepresent the condition of the 14-year-old unit. What was interesting is that he genuinely thought that we owed him the money. Almost to the point of self-righteousness. The way he talked about us, what he supposedly was told with nothing evidentiary to back up his claims. Additionally stating that his lawyer said that his case was strong. His lawyer didn't manage to show up to court, but still very strong case. Oh well, it's over. The next one is titled, My landlord called the cops on me for trying to pay my rent. Cop made her let me pay, now I'm being evicted for non-payment. Texas. There is a very long and convoluted backstory, but in July, my apartment complex was bought out by one of those property flipping companies. They left me without air conditioning for 17 days in heat over 100 degrees. When I complained, she told me to call the city. They shut down the website where we could make payments. This was never an issue when I could pay online, and I was never late in the year and a half before this company bought my complex. They've made my life an absolute living hell and will not allow me to pay, racking up more and more late fees every month. This month, I went in on the 4th to pay my rent. It was one day after the late fee policy, so I expected to pay a $50 late fee. She told me she could not take my check. My lease says checks are accepted through the 10th. I was already exhausted with her after the air conditioning fiasco and told her I had to pay my rent, and I tried to leave the check with her. She told me she was calling the cops. I left. I got a knock on my door and thought it would be the cops. It was her. She gave me my check back with a copy of my lease. It said in handwriting on the back that checks are accepted the 1st through 3rd. On the front, in typing, where I signed, it said checks are accepted through the 10th. I went back in there with the check and tried to show her where it says I could pay by check through the 10th. She would not listen to me. She would not even look at the lease I was pointing to. The cop finally came, talked to me, talked to her, then told me she said she'd make a one-time exception and take my check. I thought this month's hell was finally over. Today, 4 days later, I hear someone trying to unlock my door. I quickly got dressed and went to the door. It was her with her key, trying to come in. I asked what she was doing and she handed me an eviction notice. She said she could not accept my check because I had an NSF before. I have, once, because they took so long to cash it and I forgot about it. That was my fault, but this is not. My lease also says no checks will be accepted after 2 NSFs. I have only had one. My eviction notice says I have until the 11th to get out or they will change the locks. I can't afford a lawyer and I need help. They're in violation of my lease, and tried to enter my property without notice or permission. A cop was here and told her to take my check. What do I do? Update. Thank you all so much for all the wonderful advice. I definitely feel more educated and informed about my rights now. I'm no longer being evicted and I got all of my late fees back as an account credit, except for $5, but at this point I don't even care to ask why. I used the property records to hunt down their main office in Houston. I live in Dallas, and forwarded them the same email outlining all the ways they had violated my lease that I had sent to the TAA, the city, as well as the apparently pointless, "Thanks, guys, BBB." The guy there got me set up with the online payment system that they actually do have, contrary to what the office manager here told me. Next month I can just pay online. He went through my account, got it paid, and refunded me $125 in late fees as a credit. I actually overpaid $5, still, but it's mostly a win without having to go to court. I also now have the contact information for a pro bono place that specializes in housing, just in case I ever need it. Thank you all so much for the overwhelming amount of responses and information. The next one is titled, I live in California and have been paying my rent on time and just got a notice to vacate premises within 3 days. Apparently my house that I've been renting since April just went into foreclosure and sold at auction, and we never knew about it because our landlord/landowner stopped paying everything on the house. So a new realty company or something just bought the house and has given us a notice to vacate within 3 days. What can I do? This is super unexpected and I just started the school semester. I have no idea what's going on. What are my rights? Do I have really 3 days to vacate? Update. Thank you to everyone who has offered advice on how to move forward or advice on what my rights are. I have currently emailed the new landlord that we are planning on staying for the remainder of our lease but are open to negotiating a cash for keys option. I let them know we have spoken with a lawyer and are going to send our lease agreement over as well as requesting somewhere to send our rent to. What happened was the property owner got foreclosed on because of not paying anything for the house like mortgage, taxes, etc. We notified the property management company that we were receiving notices that the house was in possible foreclosure and auction, as we were getting notices here since late June, early July. So I doubt the property management company was clueless. Update. Quick recap. My previous landlord was foreclosed on 5 months into our lease. New landlord who purchased the property we are renting issued us a notice to vacate within 3 days. Contacted the new landlord telling them I know my rights as a tenant and would like to stay the remainder of the lease or would be up to negotiating a cash for keys option, at the advice of some of the users on here. Was immediately told that wouldn't be possible because our lease was fraudulent and we had to leave as soon as possible or they would contact the police. At the advice of multiple people on this sub, I contacted my university, which I attend, who got me in contact with multiple resources. Ended up applying for my city's eviction protection program, who assigned an attorney that specializes in tenancy law to me free of charge. My awesome attorney managed to resolve the entire matter within a week. Basically told me the new landlords had no case and were more than likely trying to bully me out of my lease. She gathered all of the legal paperwork regarding the ownership of the property and who signed my lease and spoke with the new landlord's attorney, who basically agreed 100%. Bet the new landlords are pissed. Ended up getting the new landlords to sign paperwork that same day saying they'd honor our lease. Although, I'm not feeling too comfortable after this entire crap show, so I'll be considering a cash for keys option to find a new place to live. Don't want to stay in a potentially hostile tenancy environment. Basically, my attorney is a badass and I'll be getting her and her team a gift of gratitude. Try to show your attorney some love. The last one is titled, Landlord Refusing to Return Security Deposit. New York City. I'm sure this is a routine question but I'm unsure how to proceed. My landlord has notified me that she'll not be returning my security deposit on an apartment in NYC. I was surprised, as I'd had the place professionally cleaned before vacating, though I didn't supervise it, my roommate did. She sent pictures of some wear and tear that indicated the cleaning company hadn't been thorough. A food spill in the refrigerator, some burned food on a pan, some ink on a sheet, but no damage approaching the amount of my deposit. She refused to consider a partial refund. How should I pursue this? The apartment itself violates a few laws. Its bathroom was in the kitchen, for example, if that changes anything. Let me know if I can provide any more info. Update. Thanks for the suggestion. Having dug into Nolo, it turns out that everything this landlord did with regard to the deposit was illegal. From the notification, by email, not certified mail, to the execution. She failed to provide receipts or an itemized statement of damages. Most illegal, though, was the fact that, when I presented those matters in my letter, she admitted to spending the deposit before my lease was up. Not only does she have no claim upon the deposit, but she's also liable for treble damages for acting in bad faith. I'll be sending another letter, then filing in small claims court. I know that mine wasn't a big post, but thanks. You really helped out. Thanks for listening.